Yo, what is going on, everybody? Executives here, coming at you with a Vanilla Hunter PvP guide. Now in this guide I'm going to cover everything from talents, rotation, everything that you need to survive and do the most damage and just own in PvP. First thing, I'll start off with our talents. Now there's a bunch of different talent builds you can go with. You can go with Beastmaster, you can go with Marksman, you can go with survival builds. It's all pretty much personal preference and a little bit gear reliant. So the first build I have here is a full Beastmaster build, 3120-0 build. I've got points improved aspect of the Hawk and points in endurance trading. The big ones to notice here are Intimidation, Bestial Wrath, Frenzy, Ferocity, and Spirit Bond. So very good stuff here. We've also got Aim Shot with this build. You've got Mortal Shots with this build, and Hawkeye with this build, which is very nice. Now the next build, I've got a full Marksman and Survival build, 0-31-20. With this build we've got Aim Shot, Scatter Shot, Barrage, True Shot Aura, Ranged Weapon Specialization, Survivalist, and Sure-Footed. So this is a very good build if you don't really have necessarily a lot of gear, because you gain extra attack power from True Shot Aura. You've got a lot more health with Survivalist, you've got deterrence, and you've got an increased parry chance. So it's a very good build if you don't have a lot of gear. Next is a little bit of a mix up here. I've got Intimidation, I've got Scatter Shot, and then I've got parry and improved wing clip. Now this is a build if you wanted to run some sort of hybrid spec. This uses all three trees: Marksman, Beast Mastery, and Survival. So it's very good if you wanted to use all three. But yeah, I just recommend that you guys play with the talents. Just go ahead and read each talent. Generally with each tree there's a very specific build, like Aim Shot, Lethal Shots, Mortal Shot, Hawkeye, Scatter Shot, etc. It's the same thing for Beast Mastery. You're going to want Intimidation, Ferocity, Unleashed Fury, Spirit Bond, etc., etc. And the same thing over here in survival trees. So if you just read the talent trees, it's very easy to understand, and you can pick and choose which talents you like the best. Now I'm going to go on to a little bit of gear for Hunter in PvP. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you still need somewhere around 9% gear, but if you do have the Sure-Footed talent, you need only 6% gear, 6% hit from gear. So this means any kind of hit gear you can get from any piece of gear. So with all of my PvP guides, I always recommend for professions Engineering. Engineering is just super broken. You've got grenades, you've got trinkets, you've got whatever it is that helps you fight the enemy. So whether that's reflectors, whether that is a Netomatic projector, a Goblin rocket helm, whatever it is, Engineering is the most broken profession in PvP. With that being said, I'm going to start covering a little bit of rotation. So I've got a warrior here, and this is probably the class. Warrior and Mage and Rogue are the classes you'll fight the most as a hunter. So I'll give some tips against fighting warriors. I'll try and give some tips against fighting mages, and the same things for rogue. So for most melee classes, you're going to want something called Aspect of the Monkey. Now this increases your dodge chance, which is very good against melee, even though warriors have something called Overpower. When you dodge, they gain Overpower, meaning they use an ability and then you can't dodge that ability. So it's still very good against warriors regardless of Overpower. Same thing with Deterrence, increases your dodge and parry chance for 25% for 10 seconds. So it's another defensive cooldown. You've also got Feign Death, you've also got Scatter. I recommend that you guys just go through your talent, just go through your spellbook and just read your abilities. Hunters, especially Marksman hunters, have a lot of abilities, including Beastmaster. I don't know why I said Marksman, but they have a lot of abilities. So if you just take your time and read your abilities along with your talents and everything, you're going to be unstoppable, especially as a geared hunter. So the first thing that warriors generally do is they charge you. So what happens when they charge you, you get stunned, and then you generally get hamstrung. So you can either do a few things. You can scatter right away, you can Feign Death trap them right away, but what I would do is, because if it's a good warrior they'll try and taunt your pet, I'd just put up a wing clip. And in fact, I might even spam wing clip until I get an improved wing clip. So now they're immobilized. Now this gives me time to run away, and then my Imp Concussive Shot procced. So now I'm doing some damage on them. I'll do my Aim Shot into my multi-shot. and let's say they come in again, then you've got scatter shot. Hunters have a lot of CC, so never think that you guys need to prioritize damage over CC. It's always CC and then damage. And especially when a target's trapped and stuff, this allows you to switch to Aspect of the Hawk, give a little bit more attack power and stuff like that. So the point I'm trying to get across here is that you want to do as much CC as possible. And CC comes in all forms, whether that's a slow, whether that is a debuff. Whether that's a debuff like Scorpion Sting, stings the target, reduces the strength and agility by 68 for 20 seconds. That's another form of crowd control. So just anything you guys can do to help slow the warrior, to get you away from the warrior, is very good. Now, same thing with the rogue. Rogues will always open up with some sort of cheap shot or some sort of stun. So the first thing you're going to want to do is right after that you're done being stun locked, you're going to want to put up a flare. Now what this does is this prevents the rogue from vanishing. So if you're fighting the rogue's not going to be able to vanish in the flare. It will still use the cooldown, but it's not going to make him go invisible. So you have to utilize flare as much as you can. Always have it up while fighting rogues, whether it's on you, whether it's somewhere where you're going to be running to. It's very good. And then the same thing, you're just going to want to scatter shot, trap the rogue. Rogues, besides Skull of Impending Doom, have no real way of getting out of traps. They have no taunt, so they can't taunt your pet. So yeah, also keeping up Hunter's Mark on rogues and warriors are very good because you can see them on your mini-map. It will tell you their name on minimap, and also if they're in a relatively close range to you, you could see them through stealth for the most part. So yeah, that's pretty much it for warriors and warriors and rogues. You're gonna want to keep up Aspect of the Monkey. You're gonna want to use deterrence when they're on you. Also, even popping a blood fury or a racial of some kind when they're on you, because you will be doing melee damage if they're in hit range. And then just use your scatter shot and your feign death trap, your scatter shots and your feign death trap whenever they're off of cooldown, and make sure that your pet isn't taunted, and make sure they don't get a free re-stealth or something like that. So always have flare up. So yeah, now for fighting mages and other ranged classes, there's an ability that everyone hates called Viper Sting. So Viper Sting stings a target, draining 1,108 mana over 8 seconds. Only one sting can be active at one time. So if you spam Viper Sting on a mage, if you spam Viper Sting on a shaman, paladin, hunter, warlock, priest, whatever it is, there's very few classes who can dispel poisons. I think it's only shamans and paladins can dispel poisons. So what this does is if you keep spamming Viper Sting on the target, well, I can't use it on a warrior, but if you keep spamming Viper Sting on a target that has mana, they'll go in about 8 seconds. If they have no way of dispelling it, it's going to drain their mana, and you're just going to keep spamming it, keep the uptime on it. It lasts 8 seconds, so once those 8 seconds are over, you're going to refresh it, and it just does so much mana drain, which is very good against fighting casters, because if they have no mana, they can't do anything. With you as a hunter, if you have no mana, you still have your melee abilities, and you still have your auto shots, so that's very good. So yeah, I think I've covered a decent amount of stuff. Mages, when they try and fight you, they generally try and get into melee range, because you can't. They try and stay in this I think it's 8-yard radius where you can't use any ranged abilities and you can't use any melee abilities. So when they do that, what you're going to want to do is scatter them or trap them. Something that's very good, especially if you're BM, is if you use your pet to stun them with intimidation and then preemptively place a trap down, and then they blink into your trap, and this allows you to get away, because once they're trapped, unless they ice block it off or something, they're not going to be able to catch you for another 15 seconds. So kiting against a mage, kiting against a warlock, kiting against a shadow priest is really, really, really good. So yeah, the thing that I'd recommend for fighting against casters, Viper Sting is very good. You want to try and get away as fast as you can, so maybe even using feign deaths to feign death if they're casting a frostbolt or if they're casting a polymorph. Just feign death, and that'll cancel the cast, and then you can try and maybe Aspect to the cheetah and get away or something, and then take it off before you get hit by a spell. So yeah, that's my recommendations for fighting against casters. Yeah, so that basically covers everything about a vanilla hunter in PvP. I covered a lot of basic stuff like talents, like gear, like rotation, and just some tips against fighting ranged melee classes. I didn't really go into that much detail about like specific engineering items or stuff like that, just because I've covered that in almost every other PvP guide video. So if that's something you guys would like to see, I can come out with another video explaining what trinkets are really good on Hunter, but it's the same for all the other classes. Netomatic Projector is very good, Goblin Rocket Helm, any Frost, Shadow, or Fire Reflector is very good for engineering in PvP, so stuff like that. Now, another important thing is that if you're running True Shot Aura, to always have it up. Also, another tip is that if you have track humanoids up, you can see all other PvP players on your minimap, which is nice. If you're like out world PvPing or questing or something, you could see for the most part other players running at you. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I tried to cover everything: defensive cooldowns, offensive cooldowns. I'm gonna leave some clips of me PvPing as a hunter in vanilla, and hopefully you guys can get a sense or a feel of how it runs. You want to try and be as proactive as possible, always scattershot, always trapping, always doing damage. So yeah, always kiting, which is the most important thing. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
You spent all this time thinking of me. How come you're not there when you got me? I know that you're busy, so make the time. If you want this with me, do me right. I could be somewhere else, but I'd rather be with you. And that's what I call time well spent. So what do you call it when you're with me? Is it time well spent? So what do you call it when you're with me? Is it time well spent? You took all this time. Stick around.